So welcome everybody to our session today, which is called Making the Most in Mobile. Who said the inbox was just for email? So my name is Kelly Schaefer-Flake, and I am a solutions consultant here at Iterable. I've been with Iterable for a little over a year now, and I'm actually of our New York office full time. So primarily my role at Iterable is working with both prospective and current customers to help understand their biggest marketing challenges and work with them to find solutions within Iterable. So a fun fact about me is I actually cannot swim. I've tried for years and years and years and still can't do it. So hopefully that's a fun icebreaker for you all. So I want to start by setting the stage for today's presentation. So we're going to be walking you through an onboarding and welcome series from the perspective of two different people. And this is for a fictional fintech app called Frugal. Now, the two people that we're thinking about today are our customer and our marketer. So for our customer or end user, we have Katie, who heard about this new fintech app called Frugal to help manage her finances. She finally decided to take the plunge and sign up, but she doesn't want another cumbersome app to manage. If she's going to start with a new app, she wants it to be easy to use and intuitive and make sense. And for our marketer, we have Peter. Peter's a growth marketer at Frugal, and his intention is to turn signups like Katie into loyal customers and ultimately brand advocates. And Peter's really concerned about drop-off and has built out his welcome series to minimize drop-off after that initial sign-up. So we can go ahead and hop into Iterable. Now, today where we're starting is Iterable's Workflow Studio, where Iterable customers power their multi-step journeys. And it's a drag and drop interface that you see here. So Iterable customers can build out cross-channel automations to really optimize for all of their different conversion goals. So in this example that we're walking through today, I'll talk you through how many of our customers onboard their users across different mobile channels with the goal of delivering that right message on that right channel and ultimately at the right time. So looking at this interface here, everything in Iterable, at least in the Workflow Studio, is really going to start with a trigger node, which is what initiates an automation. In this case, and for most onboarding series, it's when somebody signs up for that account. So as soon as Katie, our customer, completes that sign up, she's going to be qualified into this workflow in real time. Now, from there, we want to send a message welcoming Katie to the app and really targeting that first conversion. For some Iterable customers, that first message might be an email or an SMS. But for this mobile app, the first thing that's going to happen is an in-app message welcoming Katie with a CTA to complete the profile. So for Katie and for many customers, right, it's really important that she understands what it is that she's being asked to do. Now, similarly, really important to make the first conversion happen because it's such a big area of drop off. So timing and channel are key. So making next steps clear using an interstitial like an in-app is going to help your user ensure that your user knows exactly what to do and help them take that immediate next action. And Peter was able to build this very quickly directly within this UI just using a drag and drop editor. So really making it easy for Peter to build out and test his content. Now, after this first message, after that pop-up within the app asking Katie to complete that profile, the next thing that's going to happen is a delay because Peter wants to give customers like Katie some time to complete that initial action. So for Frugal and for a lot of fintech apps, right, this can take a few minutes to complete that profile, to identify yourself, and then to link multiple bank accounts. But once that first delay is complete, Peter can actually leverage Iterable's filter node to look back on user behavior and determine how to treat his customers differently. So if we think about Peter's goal, right, which was really to have Katie complete that profile, Peter can run a check to see if a user has completed that step in the past 10 minutes. Of course, this is really just a segmentation UI available in this kind of workflow studio view. So this could really be an unlimited number of different event criteria or attributes based on somebody's sign-up status and things like that. But in this case, it really comes down to understanding how you want to treat your users after they take that initial action. So clicking out of here, if it's false, that user has not completed that profile, we actually want to go ahead and give them a proactive nudge to take that next step, right? And so in order to do this, what Peter's going to actually leverage is something that we call an A/B split node within Iterable. And what this is going to do is randomly split users into different paths, and in this case, down into different channels. So for this example, I mean, you can really have as many different splits as you want across all of your channels, really customize the as well. But in Peter's case, he really wants to give a majority to a channel he knows and a channel that he trusts, which is push in this case. He knows that that's likely to yield the outcome that he's looking for. But he also wants the flexibility to test out new channels. So for example, Peter's heard a lot of great things about SMS as an onboarding channel, but he's not quite sure if the results are there. So routing the majority of his traffic to a channel he knows, like a mobile push, is a safe bet and a safe starting point for him. Now, if we take a look at a mobile push, the benefit here for Peter is being able to immediately proactively reach out to his user base, right? So could be Katie, but any of his customers, he wants to make it really clear, again, what it is that he's asking them to do. Now, you'll notice here that we really prioritize this complete profile call to action. So in this case of Frugal, and also for many other apps, right, you have a prioritization that comes in with onboarding. What is the first thing that a customer needs to do to go from being just a casual sign up to a loyalty customer or to a brand advocate even? And so here, it's really about making sure that they get past that first conversion, that we avoid that drop off. So in this example, maybe leveraging a rich push, so a really great GIF of a dog, but then also really building out an action button that makes it, again, very clear that we're asking this customer to complete their profile and making it really easy for them to do so. Now, similarly with SMS, we can do the same thing, though the format might be. So if we click into this SMS node here, what we're able to do is build out a more personalized experience. So just like with push messages, our user is going to be proactively notified. But unlike push, with a text message, you want it to feel a little bit more personal. So you want it to feel personal, but still have that clear call to action that we're talking about here today. So in this case, you can see, hey, Katie, it's Emily over at Frugal, and we just want to remind you to complete that profile so you can start saving ASAP. And the benefit of using these channels kind of side by side and testing them out is at the end, which we'll see in just a bit, we're actually able to understand, does the data tell the story, right? What is the most effective way to get this message across? So taking a half step back now and thinking about this first filter node that we use to split our users down these different paths. So what about those users who took that first conversion action? So in this case, that user might be Katie, right? So she did complete that user profile. She's actively engaged in the app. Now, the next thing that we want to do is much like that first in-app message that we sent that really, again, disrupted that app experience and made it abundantly clear what it is that she was being asked to do. We want to do that same thing. So if that conversion is about setting a goal. So again, making it really clear that for Katie, we need you to set this first goal. All you need to do is click this button and you're going to be able to do so. And now, well, for marketers like Peter, right, the key thing is to provide Katie with the clear call to action. It's also important that he's giving her all the information she needs to be a successful power user. So typically when you think about an onboarding flow, it's almost like this information overload, right? And a lot of things that we hear about marketers struggling with is this idea that it's hard to know how to prioritize different messages. We know our conversions are most important. We know it's important to set a goal, but how can we also deliver helpful information to them that they can revisit later? So with that in mind, Peter actually chooses to pull up that in-app message about setting that first goal with a mobile inbox message that gives the getting guide. So help Katie turn into that power user that Peter be. So what mobile inbox here, what I'm really just talking about is an extension of the in-app functionality that we've been looking at the same time. So those in-apps that traditionally will kind of pop up, take over the screen, and really become that first priority message. Now, what's different about mobile inbox here, and the reason we ultimately built out this channel, is the user experience. So while push notifications and traditional in-app messaging are great for time-sensitive and messages, we know that those things can be missed, right? So our end users like Katie, they get distracted, they get busy, and then they get frustrated when they don't know how to find the messages they need when they need them. So for mobile inbox, you can build out your message just like you did normally for all of your other in-app messages. But you can actually also deliver an inbox look and feel. So what is the title of my message? Do I have a summary? And can I do a thumbnail? And potentially most importantly, right, being able to deliver this message silently to the inbox. So if I'm asking Katie to set that first savings goal, the last thing I want to do is interrupt her as she's doing that thing that I've asked her to do. So here we can go ahead and deliver this message to her inbox and use some sort of unread count, some sort of notification elsewhere in the app to let her know that there's information waiting for her as soon as she's ready, but keeping it flexible to her timeline and her experience. So once these kind of first few conversion goals are met, and this fictional brand that only has just a few things that they need their users to do, we can go ahead and trigger them elsewhere. So in this case, we're going to trigger them into a workflow that's going to allow us to nurture them and treat them differently now that we know they've shown that high intent, that they might be that kind of loyal customer that we're looking for. But what about the rest of the users? How do we think about iteration? So as I mentioned earlier, we also can give you analytics here. So thinking back to this A/B split that we had earlier, I'm able to directly in line understand how is this push performing against this SMS, right? And then based on the outcomes of those metrics and the data that the story that the data is really telling our users, we can actually start to iterate, which may or may not be a plug for our name. But we can go ahead and reroute percentages, right? Maybe SMS is more successful than Peter originally thought. So he can go ahead and make that update in real time and start to continue to monitor what it is that his customers are doing. So when we zoom out here, right, and think about this flow and think about other flows that we might build in Iterable, the idea here is making sure that when you're building out series, thinking through what is the message that you're trying to send? What's the action that you're trying to get your users to take? Making an educated guess about what that best channel might be, but leaving it open to flexibility and testing and understanding what is the real best way to send that message. So this was just one example of the types of use cases that you can build out within Iterable. So I'm going to go back to my presentation now. Go back to slides and talk through some of the other use cases that we see our customers using in Iterable. So as I mentioned, of course, welcome series are very important. Onboarding your users, that initial kind of sign up all the way through that first series is so crucial and so key. But also we have customers doing things like promotions, one-off sends, product announcement, case studies, even transactional messaging, right? So purchase confirmation, password resets, and then of course the ever important re-engagement, abandoned carts, upsells, recognition, all of those types of things. And we really see this across our customer base. So you can see we have a pretty wide breadth of industries and verticals in our customer base. So, e-commerce, entertainment, food and beverage, which we all know is a busy industry right now, health and wellness, retail, technology, and that's really just to name a few. So if you are interested in learning about these brands, how Iterable is powering their experience, you stop by our booth after this and talk to one of our team members, and they can give you more info. I will go ahead and pause there. If you have any questions, go ahead and slot those into the chat bar, and I will answer them live now. And I think one way to think about this too, just as you're thinking about questions you might ask, is really just, what are the things that you're interested in doing with mobile inbox, and where are scenarios that you might see this? So a lot of our customers are thinking about mobile inbox to serve a couple of different purposes. So that first one, right, is the purpose whereby maybe you have information that's relevant, but it's not so relevant that you want to disrupt the app experience. But then there are also customers that have mobile inbox that not only are they doing the normal in-app, right? So having it kind of pull up and take over the screen, but then also because the information is so important, being able to save it to the inbox as well. So I'd be curious to hear if any of y'all are thinking about mobile inbox and how you're thinking about maybe applying that to your brand strategy moving forward. Gotcha. So I see a question here. So can you talk about custom action buttons with push and some use cases that Iterable customers might leverage? That's an absolutely great question. So definitely, I think action buttons are a really great thing to use if there's a specific action that you're asking your users to take, right? So I've seen them before if, say, somebody has an account update, some sort of alert that they want somebody to go to immediately, so they can link to that exact place within their app and take that action. And that, of course, is an opposite to some use cases where customers don't have a custom action button because the push notification is just a softer reminder. So I think it probably comes down to what is your CTA and how timely and important is it? So that's a great question. And just thinking about, I think, going back to the inbox for just a minute, I think another use case that I definitely would love to bring up too is promotion. So a lot of our kind of e-commerce or retail brands, or even kind of food delivery brands, for example, will use mobile inbox if they want to give somebody an offer, like a discount, maybe 10% off or something like that. And they want to kind of have a living inbox where they can serve those promotions, but again, not really like disrupting the experience. So I think that's super helpful when you're thinking about how you want to communicate and deliver information to your users, especially because, we have a lot of customers, and I feel this myself as an end user, is at the end of the day, we have so many apps on our phones. We have so many notifications that we have to sift through and manage, and you don't want to waste the attention that you might be able to get to your app on a message that maybe isn't as critical. But you still want to be able to continue to deliver an experience. So I think that's a really great way to think about using inbox as well. I don't think I mentioned that earlier, but I would say that's one of the common use cases. And part of this too is when you think about getting the inbox. So this is available via our SDKs. And what's awesome about that is you can still customize. So, I'm sure you love the inbox that I built myself as a non-designer. But being able to have the inbox be compatible with your existing look and feel, I think, is ultimately key when you want to implement a new channel that feels more native to your app. And don't be shy with questions. It doesn't have to be related to mobile inbox or push or anything like that. I can also just keep talking about mobile inbox forever. I think one of the biggest things we get asked about is what's the difference between a in-app message versus a mobile inbox message, and more specifically, when would I use an in-app and normal in-app message? So again, that's that kind of like modal that disrupts the screen versus the mobile inbox. And I think, again, not to sound redundant here, but I think this point is really important. It's really when you have information you want to deliver that isn't time sensitive. So for example, if I'm playing a game on my phone, probably the last thing I want to have happen in the middle of my game is some sort of in-app that takes over my screen and then I lose my game. So that might be an opportunity to deliver an offer for like a free 100 coins to your mobile inbox so that then that kind of user experience isn't disrupted. So I think it just comes down to, how do you want that information to be used? How do you want your users to think about that information? And then really kind of going from there. Any questions on that? Or okay, I see another one. Yeah, so a good question is, for in-app messages, can Iterable take responses through clicks if you were happy with your service, yes or no, for example? Yeah, so that's a great example. So you can really define different buttons within your in-app. So it doesn't have to be just displaying information, for example. You can actually have your users take action from there. So just like with a push message, that custom action button that I mentioned earlier, you can link to a specific place in the app. You can also do that with in-app messages as well. So you could have a pop-up that asks your user a question. Maybe, how happy are they with the experience? Are they interested in learning more about a premium feature? And then direct them to the appropriate space to continue that experience. So it's a great way, I think, to engage your users as well directly within the app, because I'm sure you all have felt this way before too, where it's like you get emails, you're inundated with emails in your actual email inbox, and they're all asking for feedback about the service, and it's just a lot to sift through. So if somebody's actively engaged in the app, giving them a way to provide feedback or engage with something new is often a great idea. All right, any other questions? We've got a quiet bunch here today. Probably just because there's so much food for thought with this mobile inbox demo we just saw. And really, our team is fully equipped to break down your specific use cases as well. So if you don't want to ask a question immediately, but you'd like to go to our booth and have somebody on our team take care of some of those questions that you're interested in that are really related to your business, feel free to do that. They're definitely equipped. Oh, okay, another question. So do you have any thoughts on the inbox approach, excuse me, meaning they have a tab for promotions and other more critical information? So I'm gonna assume you mean mobile inbox, just because that's the scope of a conversation. But if you mean email inbox, I can also answer that as well. So just like with email, I'm sure we've all gotten used to, if we're like Gmail users, for example, we see these different tabs, how that's kind of like automatically sorting information. And while I know it's definitely a pain for marketers, for an end user, that's such a great experience to be able to categorize information and really direct your attention when you have so much information coming at you. So I think that's a really great use case for mobile inbox as well. So with our mobile inbox, we give you the flexibility to customize its display and presentation. So if you wanted to, say, have different categories of in-app messages that would go to different places in your mobile inbox, so promotions, critical information, things like that, I think that's a really great use case. And I think that's the beauty and the flexibility of having a mobile inbox in the first place, is you have complete control over how those messages are displayed. Great question. Yeah, definitely. Any other questions for anybody still on, anybody here? It doesn't have to be mobile inbox related. I'm happy to talk about any sort of cross-channel program as well. All right. Well, if nobody has any more questions, definitely feel free to head out. But again, definitely take advantage of our team at the booth. They are very, very knowledgeable and would be more than happy to answer any sort of questions that come up. So thank you all.